it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. Whoop whoop, we have Colorado in the house. Colorado, it is so good to hear from you. Thank you so much for your donation and contribution to the channel. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to host these sessions, these discussions, and have in the privacy of this context some discourse in order to help and support those people who have really specific questions and needs. And then in this group forum, we can really sort of get some things out and share it together. The more that we share, the more energy things will kind of begin to brighten up and then sharpens people's mind. And thank you so much for your donations. And absolutely positively, if this channel has been a positive resource, or if you have specific questions about tools or specific videos you want me to put together and compile and curate for you, please do feel free. There's a PayPal Donate Now button here on the homepage at YouTube where you can make a donation. You can put a message there for me. If there's anything specific that you want me to work on, we can do that together. So thank you so much for your donation. And we are going to be getting to your requests here, so stay tuned. For the time being, though, I really want to zoom in and focus in on how to spot the red flags of a covert narcissist. This is very difficult because of the long, sort of simmering, brewing nature of the emotional manipulation that tends to plague these relationships. It can be a very feel-good thing to try to be a supply in a covert narcissist relationship. The way that they sort of take your life over is very sort of stealth, very slow, very calculated in the way that it's very unrushed. But, you know, it's a testimony to how deep a covert narcissist then can really be a real hindrance in your life as well. And so we're really going to focus in today on the red flags of a covert narcissist. A covert narcissist is someone who really has sort of a undergirding quiet rage about them. They're not always going to be very projecting of it, but it's really the fact that they kind of keep everything bottled up, brewing inside, simmering inside. And they tend to have sort of a pathological envy of others. So it's the fact that they really just sort of want to be one better than others. Not necessarily win a specific match, but really just the fact that they want to be better than somebody. And if that somebody is you, that is a very difficult place. It's a very heavy place to be because there's a dark negativity that can tend to pervade the relationship. It becomes really like a perpetual storm, a feeling of a perpetual dark cloud in your life. You feel you can't really breathe. You can't really emotionally exhale. You can't really go full throttle without this person's either retribution, punishment, trying to pull you back, trying to keep you small. You don't have the resources. You don't have the talent. I don't think so. And they're very sort of apathetic when it comes to being supportive. They're very sort of limp. They're really sort of a wet towel, if you will, on the parade. Meaning they just are a damper on things. And this damper is oftentimes coming from a damage within them. Meaning they don't feel confident and competent enough to be equal with others. They feel that they're oftentimes very shy or awkward socially with people, especially those people who are close to them. They're very awkward. They don't know how to behave. They're always sort of either not giving a lot of affection or, they're not giving a lot of guidance. They're not really sort of open. They're very sort of closed off. They're very sort of covert, stealthy. And so a red flag of a covert narcissist is just this. You feel that there's a lot going on, but this person never talks about it. There's a lot that goes on, but they're not talking or discussing your life issues with you. It's just you're kind of like there to fend and fight for yourself. You kind of feel like you're at the wall all the time with them. The wall is a feeling because of everything that they have sort of buried within. And it's not a lot of oftentimes kindness or support or letting you go. It's a way of keeping you held back, that they're really sort of unconsciously pining for, and you can feel, it's a tension you can feel because of a lack of communication, a lack of clear airways within these people. There's a pathological envy, where you feel scared or a sort of trepidation if you sort of, become yourself. There's a feeling of disapproval. They don't, outright show disappointment or disapproval, but it is what they're all about. I mean, you will never, ever satisfy their need to be the one who's approved of. They don't want to give too much. They can be very cheap with their money. Things that merit roses, they're giving a carnation. They don't want to sort of, really celebrate others. They have a fear. They might have this fear of spending money, or the fear that their luck is going to run out, or these sort of other sort of feelings that make them sort of very cheap or withholding. And so they're oftentimes very much surrounded by people who will do a lot of the giving. The people who thrive on giving, who thrive on being carefree with their money. In other words, letting money flow, let emotions flow, be creative, be productive, have that sort of entrepreneurial drive that is your spark, your passion, living your passion. Oftentimes they are intimidated by this. They're taken aback. They don't understand it. Why would you, how can you be all this? Like, they just don't see it. And so you feel this lack of support. It's a smaller vision. And so they sort of try to can you and bottle you up into a place that's emotional asphyxiation, where you can't function, you can't grow, you can't expand, you can't exhale, you can't follow that spark, which is really kind of, your own self-generating energy, that keeps you alive, that allows you to provide for yourself. Oftentimes they can't witness that. They can't sort of be with you in that moment. They are very uncomfortable. And so they might then devalue you or be very emotionally abandoning in their statements. They're just don't give you the time. They don't see it happening. And so if you surround yourself with people who aren't able to see your goal and your passion with you, they're shutting it down. And so they're going to devalue and discard emotionally through the things that they say, your opinions. They can be very discarding of your opinions, discarding of your actions, your choices, your growth, where you're going, what your next level is, what your thoughts are. So they can do sort of an emotional discard of your emotions, your opinions. They can devalue your ideas, these very intangible things. And so oftentimes it's not even what they say, it's just the fact that they are not supportive. There's a lack of empathy in the covert narcissist. So they display this lack of empathy very well through the exploitation of their devaluing, meaning they leave it very sort of enigmatic, or, you'll know that I'm disappointed by you. They won't come out and say it, and then being able to be accountable. They're very unaccountable. There's so much that goes on underneath the person's surface, and then, that you don't know about this character. And then years later, as they come on in, their older years, and they, start to say these things or ask these things, and you're like, how long has this been bottled up? Like, but it's always a poker face. You never, and they don't have a lot of sort of motivation to connect with you. You don't feel this oxytocin bonding like a mother with child, like we have a bond here. Oftentimes you feel like there is no bond, and it's very scary because, especially when this is a significant person, you're like, this is where it's all supposed to be, is right here. Like, this is what, your job is as a parent, is to be able to bond with your kids. That's kind of like your number one role. So they oftentimes will fail their children and fail their loved ones because of their lack of empathy, their lack of support. And as a viewer so awesomely stated, I'm just going to read it here from a comment page on a recent video. He says, the malignant covert narcissist has an uncontrollable and insatiable need to infringe upon the free will of others and control. To infringe upon the free will of others is the essence of negativity, the dark side or evil, if you will. They will stop at nothing, like a Terminator robot, to destroy their primary target, and their primary target is the object of their pathological envy. So this reminds me of like the Greek myths, you know, of the Oedipus complex, the where there's this sort of sexual connection between parent and child, and it becomes, like this really sort of incestuous envy, where they don't want their offspring to perform. There's this sort of sexual energy, this grounding energy, where they have a pathological envy, and they're tormented by their love of this person. It can be so much that they so much love this person that they're negative to them. They want to take over their free will, because for them to love is, for them, it's an uncomfortable, it's like to admit this sort of incestuous feeling of closeness. And so something is holding them back. There's a problem that they don't have their own boundaries and standards. There's an enmeshment that they feel because they can't really, express what is going on. That sense of entitlement and that sort of pathological self-interest, and then with the lack of empathy, it creates this very unique dynamic of the Oedipal complex. If you ever read about that in the Greek mythology, it's very intensive, but there's this tinge of pathological envy, and all you're trying to do is be yourself. All you're trying to do is grow, which to my mindset, especially in a parent-child relationship, if this is where it is, or parent-spouse, wouldn't you want this person to become self-reliant, grow, and be able to enjoy the fruits of who they are? Like, I had a very great colleague who's an excellent social worker, really very profound insight, and he said, with a lot of these relationships, they can never appreciate you for who you are. They're never able to appreciate you for who you are. They're depriving themselves through their own torment. So they're never able to, fully enjoy you, which is their loss. I mean, they're not able to take all your goodness, which is so like on your cuff. Oftentimes, those people who are in a relationship with a covert narcissist, oftentimes their goodness they're shining so bright. I mean, the rays of their goodness are so apparent. The covert narcissist just has to look away. They can't become involved. They can't take an active role. They become dysfunctional. And, others end up paying the price for their dysfunction. That is the problem. So, the red flag is when you feel like you're overly paying the price for this person's life. You're losing an arm. You're losing a limb. You're losing a left side of your head. You're constantly thinking about them or what they need. And, you feel your sense of your own free will trying to be tugged at all the time. You feel like they're constantly, eyeing you, or just trying to make sure, you've disappointed me, and that disappointment will never go away. And we're going to make sure that you never forget it, how much of a disappointment you are. And even though you're this, healthy, functioning, productive, affluent person, they're still going to tell you, you're never forget what a disappointment you are. So there's this mixed message, and you're like, what? It's just a way for them to lob on this very incestuous guilt. Like, you can never satisfy me. It's almost like they're in love with themselves and their offspring, and they can't let it go as a part of them. They're like, they want to control it. They're like, this is mine. This is my appendage. And you're like, no, I'm a separate person, an entity, and you don't get it. I mean, they just don't get it, and you can't really have a discourse with them, because then it erupts into more rage. And the problem with the covert narcissist, the red flags, is, their rage will be bottled up for like decades. And you're like, you're still sort of, they don't make it their business to share their feelings. So they feel they're very entitled to their own private thoughts and their fantasies and their illusions. And then so it makes them very unrelatable. You can't connect with them. There's always like a big chunk of them you can't connect with. You feel it's very superficial, even though you have the capability for more. You're like, this person's intelligent. Why isn't there this full connection here? Why isn't there this bond? Why is there this trauma bond? It's because of the pathology and really sort of a distorted sense of not being able to let go and grow and to control the growth of another through their asphyxiation, or what they don't give, what they don't share. So it's a very, very interesting thing to see the red flags of the covert narcissist. There's this withdrawing or retreating, sort of aloofness. And then, of course, it's kind of like, the person, if you were to see like a young child who has like a toothache and they're crying in the corner, as an adult, a caring human being, what happened to your tooth? Let's see what you need. Let's get some salt water. Let's, heal it. It's going to grow back. Don't worry. But that child is like always in the corner. Like you feel a sense of their pain. And so there's a sort of empathy that you have which feels their pain. So you can't really go and honor your free will because you still feel their pain. You're feeling a pain within them that seems, to always be there. And you kind of hurt for them. You kind of, you feel their pain. And so when they say, do you